Did you know that in 2026, Social Security is changing in ways that will affect women far more than men, and most people haven't even heard about it yet? If you're a woman over 55, or you love someone who is, what I'm about to share could literally change your retirement by thousands of dollars. So stay with me, because these aren't small tweaks, these are real, life-altering shifts that every woman deserves to understand before it's too late. If this sounds important to you, please give this video a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button so you never miss updates like this, and when we're done, drop a comment below and tell me, did you already know about any of these changes? I read every single one. Now, let's get into it. Now, here's something I want you to really sit with for a moment. Women make up roughly 55% of all adult Social Security beneficiaries in this country. More than half. And yet, for generations, the rules of Social Security were largely designed around a workforce that looked very different, one where men worked full careers and women often stepped back to raise children, care for aging parents, or support their husbands' careers. Sound familiar? If you're nodding your head right now, that's because millions of women lived exactly that life, and many are still feeling the financial impact of it today. That's why 2026 is such a pivotal year. Several sweeping changes are taking effect, some that will help women tremendously, and some that could quietly cost them if they're not paying attention. And I want to make sure you walk away from this video knowing exactly which is which. Let's start with something that's been years in the making. The full retirement age, or what Social Security calls your FRA, has officially reached its final destination. Starting in November of 2026, anyone born in 1960 or later will have a full retirement age of 67. Now, you might be thinking, okay, so what does that actually mean for me? Here's what it means. If you decide to claim your benefits early, say at 62, your monthly check will be permanently reduced by 30%. Not temporarily. Not just for a few years. For the rest of your life. And here's why this matters so much more for women than for men. Women, on average, live about 5 to 6 years longer than men. Think about that for a second. If you're a woman who claims benefits at 62 and lives until 88, you'll be receiving that reduced payment for 26 years. That could mean tens of thousands of dollars less over your lifetime compared to a woman who waited until 67. Now, I know waiting isn't always possible, life doesn't always give us that luxury, but knowing this gives you the power to plan. And planning, my friend, is everything. Now let's talk about something that has honestly been a long time coming, and for many women, it is going to feel like justice finally arriving. For decades, there was a rule called the Government Pension Offset, the GPO, and it created heartbreaking situations for widows and divorced women across the country. Here's how it worked. If you were married to a man who worked in public service, a teacher, a firefighter, a government employee, someone whose job didn't pay into Social Security, you could find yourself in a devastating situation. Even if you were entitled to survivor or spousal benefits based on your husband's record, your checks could be slashed or wiped out entirely because of this offset. I've spoken with women who were shocked, truly blindsided, when they went to file their survivor benefits after losing their husbands, only to find out they were getting little to nothing. Women who had spent decades as caregivers, who had sacrificed their own careers, and who were counting on those benefits. It was, frankly, a cruel surprise. But in 2026, thanks to the Social Security Fairness Act, many of those reductions have been removed or significantly adjusted. This means widows and divorced spouses who were previously penalized could now be receiving thousands of extra dollars every year. If this sounds like it might apply to you, I cannot encourage you strongly enough, call Social Security directly, or speak with a benefits advisor. Because you may be owed money you didn't even know you could claim. Let's move on to something that sounds like good news at first, and it is, to a point, but there's a catch hiding underneath, and I want to make sure you see it clearly. For 2026, Social Security announced a cost of living adjustment, a COLA, of 2.8%. For most beneficiaries, that works out to about an extra $56 per month. And after years of watching grocery prices and utility bills climb higher and higher, any increase is welcome, right? Here's the part that stings, though. Medicare Part B premiums, those are the premiums automatically deducted from your Social Security check each month, are going up too. They're rising from $185 to $202.90 per month. So when you do the math, a big chunk of that $56 raise gets immediately absorbed by higher Medicare costs. And here's why this disproportionately affects women, because women, on average, have had lower lifetime earnings than men, their Social Security checks tend to be smaller to begin with. When Medicare takes a bigger bite out of a smaller check, you feel it more. It's not fair, but it's the reality, and knowing it helps you budget around it. Now, here is something I want every woman, and every family, to hear, because it touches on one of the most painful moments in life. When a loved one passes away, Social Security currently offers what's called a lump sum death benefit. It's a one-time payment meant to help cover funeral costs or immediate expenses. And for over 70 years, can you believe that, for over 70 years, that benefit has been capped at just $255. $255. In today's world, where even a modest funeral can cost $8,000 to $12,000, that number is almost impossible to comprehend. But there's hope on the horizon. The Social Security Survivor Benefits Equity Act is gaining serious momentum for 2026 implementation, and it proposes raising that death benefit to $2,900, and indexing it to inflation going forward so it never becomes irrelevant again. This won't solve everything, but it's a step toward recognizing that families deserve real support in their hardest moments. Keep an eye on this one, because it could make a real difference. Finally, I want to touch on something that affects women in a quieter, less dramatic way, but is still very real. To qualify for Social Security benefits at all, you need 40 work credits over your lifetime. In 2026, the amount of earnings required to earn one credit is going up to $1,890, compared to $1,810 last year. That might not sound like much, but for women who had interrupted work histories, who took years off to raise children, to care for elderly parents, or to support a spouse through an illness, every credit matters. If you spent years in what I like to call the invisible workforce, cooking, cleaning, raising good humans, managing households, Social Security largely doesn't count that work. It never has. And while we can talk all day about how that system needs to change, what matters right now is making sure you know where you stand. Do you have your 40 credits? If you're not sure, you can check your Social Security statement online at ssa.gov, and I encourage every single woman watching this to do exactly that. Knowledge is protection. When you pull back and look at all of these changes together, what you see is a system in motion. Not perfect. Not always fair. But slowly, gradually responding to the reality that women's financial lives look different, and that the rules need to reflect that. The Fairness Act changes are a genuine win. The COLA, with its Medicare asterisk, is a reminder to read the fine print. The death benefit proposal is long overdue. And the FRA reaching 67 is a signal that timing your claim wisely has never mattered more. What I want you to leave this video with isn't anxiety, it's clarity. Because clarity is power. The women who come out ahead in retirement aren't always the ones with the highest earnings or the most savings. Often, they're the ones who understood the rules, asked the right questions, and made informed decisions. And that's exactly what you're doing right now by watching this video. We've covered a lot of ground today, from full retirement age and early claiming penalties, to the big wins for widows and divorcees, to the COLA catch, the death benefit changes, and work credit requirements. There's a lot to process, I know. But we're not done yet. In just a moment, I'm going to bring it all together and give you some practical, concrete steps you can take right now, regardless of where you are in your retirement journey, to make sure these 2026 changes work for you, not against you. So don't go anywhere, because what's coming next might be the most useful part of all.